I remember the desert wind that night, dry, restless, moving like something alive. The moon hung low over Route 66, spreading silver light across the abandoned asphalt. My brother Daniel leaned against the hood of our old Ford, sipping from a bottle of cheap gas station coffee, humming the same tune he always did when he tried to hide his nerves. We were out here because of me. I was the one who convinced him to take this detour through Navajo territory. I told him it would save time. I told him these roads were empty, peaceful, perfect for a late-night drive. But the truth? I wanted to see what my grandfather once spoke about. The lights in the desert. The creature that ran faster than any coyote. The shape that stalked men under the moonlight. I didn't believe in skinwalkers. Not then. But Daniel, he believed in everything. Ghosts, curses, bad omens. He'd shiver at the sound of a wolf. And yet, he agreed to this drive, just because I asked. He trusted me too much. The desert stretched endlessly around us, quiet, star-drenched, cold. No cars, no towns. Only the soft hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of wind sliding through the sagebrush. Phone signal. I asked, knowing the answer. Daniel checked. Nothing. 0 bars. Good. The world felt suspended. Quiet. Almost hollow. A strange peacefulness settled around me. Until Daniel suddenly froze, his eyes fixed on something across the road. "What is that?" he whispered. I followed his gaze. At first, I thought it was a man. A tall figure standing at the edge of the desert, barely visible in the moonlight. Not walking, not moving, just watching. I squinted. Probably just a tree or a post. But Daniel didn't blink. Trees don't stare at people. His voice cracked on the last word. "We're tired," I said, trying to sound calm. "Let's just get back in the car." He didn't move. The figure seemed wrong. Too tall, too thin, limbs stretched slightly longer than they should be. Its head tilted in an unnatural angle, like its neck had been broken long ago but still held itself upright. Daniel whispered, "It's coming closer." I blinked. The shape had moved. Not walked. Not stepped. Just appeared 10 feet closer, without sound, without warning. My heartbeat shot through my throat. I pulled Daniel toward the car. "Get in. Now." We both slammed the doors, and I hit the lock button 3 times. Daniel gripped the steering wheel with trembling hands. "What did you see?" I asked. He swallowed. It looked like a man, but not like one. I wanted to tell him he was imagining things. I wanted to laugh it off, but I had seen it too. The Ford rumbled as Daniel started the engine, but before he shifted into drive, a sound echoed from the desert. A whistle, long, slow, mimicking the exact tune Daniel had been humming a few minutes ago. His blood visibly drained from his face. "Don't look," I said. "Drive." But he couldn't. His eyes were glued to something. I forced myself to turn and saw it. The figure was now closer, just on the edge of the asphalt. Its limbs twisted, reshaping, rearranging themselves, like something inside its skin was crawling, trying to push its way out. The whistle came again, perfectly mimicked. Too perfect. "That's not human," Daniel whispered, voice shaking violently. The creature stepped forward, its legs bending in a way no animal or man should ever move. "Daniel, drive." The tires screeched as we tore off down the highway. The wind roared past us. The desert blurred. But every few seconds, Daniel glanced in the rearview mirror. "It's running," he whispered. I grabbed the mirror and tilted it away. "Don't look at it. Don't acknowledge it," Grandfather always said. "You believe him now?" Daniel gasped. A sudden thump hit the back of the car. We both screamed. Daniel swerved. The Ford nearly left the road. Something was on us. The roof groaned under weight. Claws scraped metal. Then, a voice, just above us, whispering in Daniel's exact voice. "Stop the car. Let me in." Daniel's breath hitched. Tears welled in his eyes. "That's not me," he whispered. "I know." Another whisper, this time in my voice. "It's okay. Open the door." The creature was mimicking us, trying to get inside. The wind howled. The tires roared. And then, a scream. A shriek so sharp it cut straight through the air. The weight vanished. Silence swallowed the car. Daniel wiped his face with shaking hands. "We need to get out of here. We need to." A sudden shape appeared in the headlights. Not running. Standing. Waiting. The same impossible figure from before. Daniel swerved too late. The car spun. The world tilted. The headlights flashed across the desert. And the last thing I heard was Daniel screaming my name as the darkness swallowed everything. I woke to the taste of sand in my mouth and the sound of distant wind scraping across the rocks. My skull pulsed with a deep, throbbing ache, and for several seconds, I couldn't remember where I was, or why everything around me smelled like burnt metal and gasoline. When I finally opened my eyes, the world was a smear of moonlight, dust, and silence. The Ford was upside down, no longer humming with life, its wheels still spinning slowly in the dry desert air. The windshield was shattered. The hood crumpled like paper. One of the headlights flickered, barely alive, casting a weak glow across the empty road. I pushed myself up, groaning. "Daniel?" My voice cracked. The only answer was the wind. I crawled toward the wreckage, feeling shards of glass crunch beneath my palms. My ribs burned, my arms stung, and my mouth felt swollen, but none of that mattered. Not compared to the emptiness beside me. The driver's door hung open. Daniel wasn't inside. I staggered to my feet. "Daniel!" My voice echoed across the desert, hollow and drowned by darkness. Nothing. I limped around the truck, scanning the sand for footprints, drag marks, anything. There. 2 tracks. One was Daniel's boot print, clear, deep, facing the desert. The second print. I froze. It wasn't human. Long. Twisted. Bent. The heel wrong. The toes too long. Like something that barely remembered how to walk like a man. And Daniel's prints didn't run. They walked. As if he had followed it willingly. Or as if he had been called. A shiver crept up my spine. I followed the trail a few feet before it abruptly stopped. Just ended. No more footprints. No dragging. Nothing. Like they had been lifted into the air. The desert around me suddenly felt too quiet. Too cold. The moon, so bright earlier, now seemed dim, swallowed by a thin veil of drifting clouds. I turned back toward the road, and the breath left my lungs. Someone stood there. Not the creature from earlier. Not quite. This was a silhouette of Daniel. Same height. Same build. Standing next to the truck. But wrong. Too still. Too straight. Arms hanging at an unnatural angle. "Daniel?" I whispered. The shape tilted its head. Not like a person would. It rotated slowly, too far, like its neck was made of wet rope. I stepped back, heart pounding in my ribs. "Say something, if that's you." The figure mirrored my step. Then another. Then another. A perfect imitation. I realized it was studying me, learning my movements, testing how a human behaves. "Stay back," I warned, though my voice shook. It stopped. Then slowly, deliberately, it raised one arm. Its hand opened, twisted, fingers cracking, and in a perfect mimicry of Daniel's voice, it whispered, "Help me, please." The imitation was flawless. Too flawless. Daniel never said "please" that softly. He always spoke with a crack in his voice when he was scared. This one had no fear, no trembling, just cold repetition. I backed away, my breaths turning sharp and shaky. "Where's my brother?" The creature hesitated, then smiled, not with lips, but with its entire face shifting, stretching beneath the skin like something was pushing from the inside. My body moved before my mind did. I ran, straight into the desert, away from the road, away from the twisted silhouette, away from the shape that was wearing my brother like a mask. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Too fast, too heavy, gaining. I stumbled behind a cluster of rocks. The desert was vast, but shadows were few, and hiding felt hopeless. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Slowly, painfully slowly, I peeked over the rock. Nothing. The figure was gone. The road was empty, the truck abandoned, the wind whispering through the sagebrush. Did it lose me? Was it waiting? Was it behind me? I didn't breathe, didn't move, didn't blink. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. The desert played tricks with time. Finally, when the quiet felt heavy enough to choke me, I crawled back toward the road, keeping low, scanning every shadow. My hands shook uncontrollably as I approached the wreck. The heat from the engine was fading. One of Daniel's belongings lay in the sand, his silver chain necklace, the one our mother gave him. The clasp was broken. Something ripped it off. I knelt, picking it up, with fingers trembling, and slipped it into my pocket. "Daniel," I whispered. Somewhere in the darkness, far deeper in the desert, a whistle echoed. His whistle, but slower, lower, stretched. Wrong. A mimic. Not him. I sat there in the cold desert wind, clutching his necklace, trying not to break. I knew only one thing. Whatever took Daniel wasn't done with me yet. The moon had fully disappeared behind a bank of slow-moving clouds, turning the desert into a cold, gray wasteland. I stood alone beside the overturned truck, Daniel's broken necklace clenched in my fist, my breath turning shallow as the silence thickened around me. The whistle had stopped, but its echo still lived in my bones. I needed help. Someone. Anyone. I opened my phone. No signal. Not even one flicker of a bar. I climbed onto a rock, raising the phone higher. Still nothing. It felt like the desert itself swallowed the signal intentionally. There was only one direction I could go, deeper into Navajo land, toward the faint trail of sand and sagebrush where Daniel's footprints had ended and where the creature's imitation had appeared. I didn't want to go, but my legs moved anyway, driven by a fear sharper than any desert wind. I couldn't leave him out here. I walked for what felt like hours, following broken patches of disturbed sand, bent grass, and subtle impressions, marks that weren't quite footprints, but something dragging lightly across the earth. Every few minutes, I stopped and listened. Nothing. Not a coyote, not a car, not even the hum of insects. A dead silence, thick and unnatural. My throat tightened. Desert nights weren't supposed to be this quiet. Eventually, I reached a dry wash, a shallow dip carved by seasonal floods. The sand was soft, almost powdery, and when I stepped down into it, it swallowed my boots with a muffled hiss. That's when I heard it. A whisper, so faint I thought it was the wind. "Help." I froze. My pulse hammered. My breath snagged in my lungs. "Help me." Daniel's voice. Weak, thin, painful, like he was lying somewhere nearby, barely clinging to consciousness. I cupped my hands around my mouth. "Daniel, where are you?" No answer. only the shifting of sand. I started running, stumbling, slipping, following the sound deeper into the wash. My boots sank with each step. My throat burned. My mind repeated one frantic thought. He's alive, he's alive, he's alive. Then, here, it came from ahead of me, behind a twisted juniper tree clinging desperately to the dry earth. Daniel, I gasped. I rounded the tree and found nothing. No body, no footprints, no signs of struggle, just an open patch of moonlit sand. Dead silent. Daniel, I shouted again. A soft crunch behind me. I spun around and froze. A figure stood on the lip of the wash, silhouetted against the moonlight. Tall, thin, shoulders hunched, limbs dangling like they were too heavy for its body. I stepped back. Stay away. But the thing didn't move. Instead, a voice crawled from its throat. Dan, I yell. The word broke in the middle. Cracked. Reassembled. Wrong. I realized it wasn't calling Daniel. It was calling me, taunting me. And then it slowly, horribly, began to climb down into the wash. Not walking, not stepping, but folding its joints in sickening angles, lowering itself spider-like. My heart slammed against my ribs. I staggered backward, tripping over a stone, falling onto my hands. Panic seized me. The creature reached the bottom of the wash, its fingers dragging through the sand, leaving long grooves. Step by step, whisper by whisper, it moved toward me. Don't, I whispered, tears filling my eyes. Its head tilted, its body twitched, its arms lengthened, skin stretching, tendons snapping like quiet twigs. Then, it spoke in my voice. Perfectly. Come here. Help me. Something inside me broke. No, I screamed. I scrambled up the slope, slipping, grabbing handfuls of dry dirt as I clawed my way out of the wash. The creature lunged forward, its long fingers scraping the sand where I had been seconds ago. I reached the top, half crawling, half running, my breath ragged and hot in my chest. Behind me, a shriek ripped through the night. Long, sharp, inhuman, so high-pitched my vision blurred. The desert rang with it. I kept running, not daring to look back, stumbling toward a cluster of rocks that resembled a small ridge. My legs felt like they were made of splinters. My lungs burned with each inhale. But terror shoved me forward. At the top of the ridge, I finally collapsed behind a large boulder, pulling myself into a tight corner, trying to remain hidden. The desert went quiet again. Too quiet. My heartbeat pounded so loudly I feared the creature would hear it. Minutes crawled by. Then, footsteps. Soft, slow, crunching sand. They approached the ridge. I squeezed my eyes shut, pressing a hand over my mouth to muffle my breathing. Every muscle in my body screamed. Cold sweat dripped down my temples. The footsteps reached the base of the ridge. Stopped. Silence. Then, a voice floated up through the darkness. My brother's voice. Broken. Begging. Terrified. It's me, help, please. I bit my tongue to stay silent, the metallic taste of blood filling my mouth. The creature was hunting, mimicking, testing. The footsteps moved again, this time circling the ridge. Searching. I stayed still, not daring to breathe, not daring to make even the smallest sound. The desert waited with me, silent, cold, watching. Then, something scraped against the rock above me. Slowly, deliberately, a hand, long fingers curling over the edge. It had found me. The desert night pressed in on us like a closing fist. David's voice still echoed in my mind, my brother's last terrified whisper before everything went silent. Route 66 behind us was a fading red line of dust, like the world itself was erasing where we had come from. The vast Arizona night was so quiet it felt like it was listening. "Jess, do you hear that?" Lily whispered. I did. A faint humming, almost like chanting, a low vibration under the wind, pulsing like someone was whispering directly inside my ears. My skin prickled as we turned slowly toward the dunes. At first, there was nothing, just rolling sand, pale under the moonlight. Then the wind shifted, and the chanting became clear, Navajo words, spoken with a rhythm that sounded older than the desert itself. The cadence was strange, almost backwards. My heartbeat stuttered. These weren't the prayers David used to recite for comfort. No, these were something else, something darker. I tightened my grip on his jacket wrapped around my shoulders and stepped closer to Lily. We stay together. We don't run. She nodded, though her eyes said she wanted to sprint back to the car. We inched forward, the chanting swelling as if something beneath the sand was crawling upward toward the surface. The moon dimmed behind drifting clouds. The air grew heavy, thick, like the world was holding its breath. Then, "Jess." My blood froze. It was David's voice. Clear, close, but coming from the sand. "David," Lily gasped. No, that's not possible. I felt it too, that wrongness. The same way a child feels when a stranger tries to use their mother's voice. Something mimicking, almost perfect, but empty. I crouched low, scooping a handful of sand. It was warm and vibrating, as if thousands of insects were crawling just beneath my palm. The ground trembled. A circular patch of sand ahead of us began to swirl, not from wind, but from something inside it, twisting the grains into a spiraling funnel. The chanting grew louder, now layered, like hundreds of voices stacked on top of each other. We stumbled back as the spiraling sand rose into a column, stretching upward like a living thing. Then it collapsed inward, forming the rough silhouette of a person, tall, shifting, made entirely of swirling dust. "Jess." Again my brother's voice, but from a shape that wasn't my brother. I grabbed Lily's arm. "Close your eyes. Don't listen. Don't respond." Because Navajo stories David told when we were younger came rushing back. Skinwalkers can mimic. They learn the voices of the dead. They call you, and if you answer, they claim you. The voice called again. "Jess, help. I'm hurt, please." I gritted my teeth, forcing every instinct down. My throat ached with the need to reply, to scream, to ask where he was. But I kept silent. The dust figure stepped toward us. Its movements glitchy, too fast, then too slow, like a corrupted animation. It stopped only feet from us. Lily began to cry quietly, her hands over her ears. I grabbed her tighter. The figure leaned closer, and when it spoke again, the voice changed. Low, deep, gravel scraping against bone. "You should have come alone." The weight of that sentence punched through me. My stomach twisted. My tongue felt wooden. The air around us grew colder, and the sand at our feet began slithering up our shoes like tiny hands trying to pull us down. "Back to the car," I whispered. We stepped backward, careful not to turn our backs fully, careful not to run too fast. The dust figure watched us, head tilted at an unnatural angle. Then it smiled. But the smile was wrong. Too wide, too sharp, stretching across a faceless head like someone carving a grin into a sack of moving sand. It lifted its arm. The dunes behind it moved. Shapes rose out of the sand, multiple figures, shoulders and heads forming, all faceless, all silently emerging like they were being grown, not born. "Oh God," Lily whimpered. "There's more than one. Jess, Jess, there's so many." I counted 7. No, 8. And they were all turning toward us. That was when the wind roared to life. A violent, spiraling gust whipped across the desert, carrying sand in sheets so thick the world blurred. The storm grew so fast it was impossible to see where the figures ended and the swirling dunes began. "Run!" I finally shouted. We sprinted through the sandstorm, the grains cutting into our skin like tiny blades. The storm screamed around us, voices layered inside the wind, chanting, calling, imitating. "Jess! Lily! Help! Come back! Don't leave me here!" But we didn't stop. I could barely see the headlights of the car, dim and buried half in the growing sand. The storm was pushing dunes across the desert like waves. We stumbled toward the vehicle, nearly blind. Lily reached it first, yanking the door open and collapsing inside. I followed, slamming the door shut as the storm smashed against the windows like a tidal wave of dust. The car shook. The chanting was so loud now it felt like it was inside the car with us. The storm outside took shape. For a split second, I saw tall silhouettes shifting inside the sand before vanishing again. I turned the key. The engine sputtered. "Come on, come on." The sandstorm pounded harder. Something scraped across the roof, long, claw-like drags. The engine finally roared to life. We sped forward, the tires fighting the sand. The car lurched wildly, fishtailing as the storm chased us. A massive shape formed behind us, something taller than any human, running on all fours, the sand bending around it like a cloak. Lily screamed as its shadow slammed against the rear window. Then the storm thinned. The road appeared, and the thing vanished in the mirror, as if the sand itself swallowed it whole. We drove in shaking silence, our breaths uneven, our hearts refusing to calm. Finally, Lily spoke, her voice trembling. "That wasn't the end, was it?" I stared ahead at the dark desert road, David's voice still echoing in my head. "No," I whispered. "It's just beginning." The highway stretched out like a black ribbon through the desert, empty and endless. Route 66 at night is usually quiet, but after what we'd just escaped, the silence felt wrong, unnatural, as if the world had paused to wait for what would happen next. Lily kept glancing at the rearview mirror even though she knew she shouldn't. "What if it followed us?" she asked. I didn't answer. My hands were locked on the steering wheel, knuckles white. The storm behind us had vanished as if someone had flipped a switch. No wind, no sand, no sound. The night had gone eerily still. "Jess, what if David?" "Don't," I said sharply. That thing wasn't him. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. The truth was pounding inside both of us. What we saw back there, those figures forming from sand and voices mimicking our brother, they weren't trying to scare us. They were hunting. The fuel gauge blinked red. My stomach dropped. We're almost out. The needle hovered at empty. The storm must have burned through whatever little gas we had left. "Jess, there's nothing for miles," Lily whispered. "We saw it on the map. The next rest stop isn't until..." A flicker of neon appeared ahead. A sign, glowing faintly in the darkness. "Red Cactus Gas and Mart. Open 24/7. I frowned. That wasn't here before. "I don't care," Lily said. "If we don't stop, we're going to die out here." She wasn't wrong. So I slowed the car and turned into the gravel lot. The neon sign buzzed weakly. The building looked old, 1950s old. A green-painted wooden gas station, cracked windows, a single pump leaning slightly to one side, a dusty Coke machine, a rusted truck that looked abandoned for at least 30 years, and not a single car on the road behind us. Something about that emptiness felt like a warning. As we stepped out, the desert air was cold, colder than it should have been. My breath fogged faintly, even though it was Arizona in summer. The bell above the gas station door jingled as we entered. Ding! The sound echoed unnervingly long, bouncing around the aisles like someone whispering it back. The inside looked preserved. Too preserved. Rows of canned food, old snacks, glass soda bottles. A faint smell of dust and engine oil clung to everything. Then we saw the man. He stood behind the counter with his back to us, perfectly still, his shoulders stiff. He looked like he hadn't moved in hours. His uniform was faded red, sleeves rolled up, revealing thin, pale arms. "Hello," I called, trying to sound normal. Slowly, too slowly, he turned around. His face was lined, leathery like desert skin. His eyes were pale blue, cloudy like someone who'd spent too much time staring at the sun. His expression didn't change, not even a blink. "You kids lost?" he asked. Something about his voice made the hair on my arms rise. It sounded flat, rehearsed, like he had memorized the words but didn't understand them. We need gas," I said. "Our brother went missing. We're trying to get help." The man nodded once, mechanically. "Pumps outside. Pay after." He turned back around. The conversation felt wrong, like talking to an NPC in an old video game who only had 3 voice lines programmed into him. Lily tugged my sleeve. Her voice was low. "Jess, look at the shelves." I glanced around. Dust covered everything, but there were footprints leading between the aisles. Not human footprints. These were narrow, elongated, deep, as if whatever made them was heavier than it should be. My heartbeat stuttered. "Let's just fill the tank and leave." We hurried outside. I grabbed the old pump handle, and to my surprise, fuel flowed easily. Too easily. "Jess," Lily whispered, staring at the desert. "Do you feel that?" The air shifted behind us. I turned. The same dust storm figures we'd escaped were now standing at the edge of the gas station's lot. 8 of them, silhouettes against the moonlight. Perfectly still, watching. My hand tightened on the pump. "How did they find us?" Lily breathed. The answer formed sickeningly fast inside my mind. "They didn't." I pointed to the neon sign above us. "This place found us." The gas station lights flickered. The fluorescent bulbs buzzed like a hive of insects. The old pump shook faintly in my hand. The desert wind began to blow, not naturally, but as if coming from a single direction, the direction of the figures. Then, the bell inside the station jingled again. Ding, ding, ding. But no one had gone inside. The lights inside flickered violently. The old man behind the counter lifted his head, and it snapped toward us with a sharp, inhuman crack. His eyes were no longer pale. They were black, completely black. He slammed his palm onto the counter. The windows shattered inward. "Lily, run." We bolted to the car as shards of glass rained across the gravel. The dust figures stepped closer, moving in perfect unison. Their outline became clearer, too tall, too thin, jagged numbers of joints bending the wrong way. The gas station itself began to transform, paint peeling, wood darkening, the neon flickering like a heartbeat slowing to death, as if the building was shedding the disguise it used to lure us. We dove into the car. I turned the key. Nothing. "Please, start." The dust figures were nearly at the pump now. The old man stepped into the doorway of the station. His limbs were long now, stretching in unnatural ways, his jaw unhinging like a snake. He pointed at us. The sand behind him exploded upward, and something enormous rose from it. Long limbs, blank face, a towering body made of swirling desert dust. The same enormous shape that had chased us earlier. Lily was crying. Jess, what do we do? The engine roared suddenly, alive. I hit the gas, and we shot out of the lot just as the creature slammed its limb down where our car had been. The ground burst upward in a cloud of sand. The gas station behind us faded, literally faded, like it was dissolving back into the desert. And within seconds, it was gone. What the hell was that? Lily whispered. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the only thought pounding in my head was this. If that wasn't a real gas station, how many more things on this road weren't real either? The tires hummed against the road as we sped into the night, the desert whipping past in blurred shadows. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, but I forced myself to keep the car steady. Lily stared out the back window, watching the darkness as if it could solidify at any moment and take shape again. Neither of us spoke for a long time. The gas station was gone. Literally gone. No lights. No structure. Not even a patch of disturbed dirt. Just desert. As if it had never existed. Finally, Lily whispered, Jess, what if we're not supposed to survive this road? What if that thing keeps creating traps until it gets us? I swallowed hard. Then we just have to stay alive longer than it expects. But I didn't feel confident. I felt like prey running in circles inside a maze designed by something ancient and intelligent. The radio crackled. Both of us jumped. A burst of static filled the car. Harsh, loud, unnatural. It wasn't coming from any station. It was like someone dragging metal across concrete. A distortion that rattled my skull. Lily grabbed the dial. Turn it off. I didn't turn it on, I said through clenched teeth. The static deepened. Layers of sound built inside it, like overlapping voices whispering behind a wall. I turned the volume dial all the way down. Nothing changed. The static stayed loud. Lily covered her ears. Jess, it's hurting. Turn it off. I yanked the entire radio unit, trying to physically rip it out. And then, the static stopped. Just like that. Dead silence poured into the car, thicker than before. Is it gone? Lily whispered. I didn't answer, because the silence wasn't normal. It felt wrong. Heavy, like the space between sound was being stretched. Then a new noise emerged, a faint, rhythmic crackling. Not static, not radio. Footsteps. I froze. The sound was coming from the speakers. Slow, crunching, as if someone was walking on dry leaves. Lily curled into herself. Jess, it's copying sounds again. Before I could respond, a voice came through. A voice we knew. Jess? Lily? Help me. My stomach turned to ice. It was David. I slammed the brakes. The car screeched and slid sideways on the asphalt. The desert was silent again except for the wind brushing across the sand. Lily grabbed my arm. Jess, we have to listen. What if he's alive? No, I whispered. That's the same voice it used near the gas station. But my chest hurt. Hearing his voice again hit something inside me I wasn't prepared for. The radio crackled. David's voice came back, but this time softer, closer, as if he was leaning into a microphone inches from us. It's dark. I can't see anything. Jess? Please. Lily burst into tears. Jess, that's him. That sounds like him. And it did. The sigh in the middle of the sentence. The way he dragged out certain words when he was scared. That was our brother. But the radio had no power. The car system had been off since the gas station. There was no reason any sound should be coming out. I forced myself to breathe. It's mimicking him, I said. It's trying to lure us. Lily shook her head violently. No, you don't know that. What if he's hurt? What if he's trapped somewhere and this is the only way he can reach us? I didn't want to say what I was thinking. It wasn't him. It was something wearing his voice like a mask. Before I could speak, the radio emitted a high-pitched beep. Then another. Beep, 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 beep. Morse code. A message. Lily sat up straighter, wiping her tears. Jess, David learned Morse when he joined that survival camp. Remember? My heart pounded. You think he's actually... She leaned close, listening intently. That's SOS. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. I felt my throat tighten. And now it's repeating, she whispered. We both stared at the radio as the beeps continued. SOS. 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 Over and over. If this was a trick, it was a good one. Too good. Too accurate. I needed to think. To figure out what was real and what wasn't. Lily, if he could send SOS, why not words? Why not more detail? She didn't answer. And then the radio clicked sharply. Everything stopped. 1 second of silence. Then, stop. The voice was deep. Wrong. Not David. A heavy, distorted voice that sounded like it was vibrating through gravel. Then, stop running. Lily covered her mouth. I stared at the radio in horror. The voice wasn't electronic. It was physical. It filled the car like someone massive was inside the trunk whispering through metal. Another voice layered behind it. Then another. Dozens of voices. All speaking in discordant unison. Stop. 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 Then all together. We are close. I slammed the gas pedal. The car shot forward. The desert blurred past. The highway lines streaked in white ribbons. My chest felt tight, and my mind felt like it was vibrating. Jess, Lily gasped. Look, look. I turned my head. In the rearview mirror, something was running after us. Not the giant dust creature. Not the thin silhouettes. This was something else. A thing shaped like a wolf, but twice the size, its limbs stretched long and twisted, its mouth splitting open far too wide. Dust and shadow swirled around it. Its eyes glowed like burning coal. It sprinted on both legs and all fours, switching between the two in unnatural jerks. Jess, faster. I'm trying. The creature lunged forward. The road cracked beneath it. The headlights reflected off its shifting shape, revealing bones flickering beneath the sandskin. It opened its mouth, and David's voice came out. Jess, help me. I screamed. I floored the accelerator. The speedometer needle hit 100. 110, 120. The creature ran faster. The car shook violently, the wheels grinding against the worn asphalt. The desert wind roared around us. Lily was sobbing and gripping the dashboard. Jess, it's catching up. I yelled without thinking. Hold on. I yanked the steering wheel and swerved onto a dirt service road branching off Route 66. The car bounced violently, nearly flipping. Sand exploded in waves around us. The creature tried to follow, but the dunes shifted under its weight. It stumbled, slammed into a ridge, and rolled violently into the shadows. For one horrible second, I saw its true face. Not wolf, not human, something in between, something ancient, something that wasn't supposed to exist on this side of reality. Then it vanished in the swirling darkness. I kept driving until my arms went numb, until the headlights lit nothing but terrain, until the world felt stable again. Only then did I stop. Only then did Lily whisper, voice trembling and raw. Jess, whatever that was, I don't think it wants to mimic David anymore. I stared out at the desert. The silence had returned. But this time, it felt like it was waiting, watching, listening. The desert seemed endless, a rolling expanse of black sand and twisted sagebrush. My hands ached from gripping the wheel too tightly. My chest burned from screaming and running. Lily sat next to me, silent now, her eyes wide as she tried to process everything we had seen. The dust figures, the gas station that disappeared, the wolf creature that had almost caught us. Route 66 was supposed to be familiar. Maps, signs, rest stops. But it no longer looked right. Every turn seemed longer. Every mile stretched into infinity. And somewhere in the distance, I knew something waited. We needed a place to stop, to rest, to think. But every exit was empty. Every roadside feature felt wrong, as if reality itself had shifted. Then, in the dim glow of the moon, I saw it, a trading post. Abandoned, crumbling, but unmistakably a shelter. The roof sagged. Wooden planks fell loose. A faded sign read, "Moonlight Trading Post." It wasn't on any map. And somehow, I didn't care. We pulled into the cracked gravel lot. The tires crunched loudly, echoing in the desert silence. I cut the engine. For a moment, the only sound was our heavy breathing. "This is fine, right?" Lily whispered, stepping out first. Her boots scuffed against the gravel. "We just hide inside, and it's fine." I followed reluctantly. The air smelled of dust and rot. The trading post doors were half open, the wood swollen with age. A cold wind blew through the cracks, carrying whispers I couldn't place. Inside, the trading post was frozen in time. Shelves lined with cans of food that looked decades old. Dust covered every surface. Old maps and postcards tacked to the walls, yellowed with age. A faint smell of candle wax and something metallic hung in the air. I leaned against the counter. "We just need to rest for a bit," I murmured, though my hands trembled. My mind was still replaying the wolf creature, the gas station, the voices on the radio. All of it seemed alive. Then I heard it. The softest sound, a shuffle, almost imperceptible, a dragging, something across the floorboards behind the shelves. "Did you hear that?" Lily whispered. I nodded. "Stay here." My voice was low, firm. I stepped forward, trying to listen. The sound repeated. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Wrong. Not human. Not animal. Something else entirely. Something sliding, bending as it moved. I rounded a shelf. Nothing. The shadows clung to the corners of the room like black liquid. Then the door creaked. I froze. And from the doorway, a figure appeared. At first, it seemed human, a man in tattered clothes, sunken eyes. But the moment it stepped forward, its limbs bent at impossible angles. Its shadow stretched along the wall in ways that didn't match its body. And when it spoke, it wasn't speaking with words. It whispered in David's voice. "Jess, help." My chest seized. I backed up. Lily shrieked, ducking behind the counter. "Don't answer it," I shouted. But my heart betrayed me. The voice was too familiar, too real. The mimicry flawless. My brother, or at least the creature wearing his voice, was close. Too close. Suddenly, the room seemed to twist. Shelves bent. Dust rose in spirals. Shadows moved against the walls. Every object looked slightly warped. The floorboards groaned as if something heavy was crawling beneath. We backed toward the rear door. I grabbed Lily's hand. "We need to get out. Now." The figure stepped toward us. Its head tilted unnaturally. Limbs stretched. The tattered clothes swirled like liquid air. And then, just like the creature in the desert, it laughed, but not David's laugh. Something older, crueler, echoing beneath the layers of mimicry. We ran, bursting through the back door into the desert night, the moonlight blinding. The sand burned our bare feet. I didn't stop. Not until the trading post was behind us, just a dark silhouette against the sky. It didn't follow. Not yet. It seemed to wait, patient, knowing we would try to survive another day. I glanced at Lily. Her face was pale, streaked with tears. "Jess, it's everywhere." I nodded silently. I knew she was right. Whatever we were dealing with, it didn't just inhabit one form. It could be a wolf, a man, a figure in the sand, even a voice. And it was patient. Somewhere out there, David was still trapped. Or maybe gone forever. But I couldn't stop. We couldn't stop. Not if we wanted to make it out alive. I turned the car back on. The engine roared, echoing through the empty desert. The highway stretched ahead, endless and dark. The dunes shifted behind us, shadows stretching toward the horizon. And in the distance, I swore I saw a shape rise from the sand, taller than anything human, its eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. It wasn't chasing us yet, but it was watching, waiting. The highway behind us seemed to dissolve into nothing. The trading post had vanished by the time we glanced back, a fading silhouette swallowed by darkness. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles white, feeling the weight of exhaustion pressing down on me. The desert night stretched endlessly, an empty canvas of stars and black sand. "Jess, where are we even going?" Lily's voice trembled. "Everywhere we stop, it's there." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My thoughts were occupied with one question. Where was David? Was he alive? Or had the Skinwalker claimed him completely? That thought gnawed at my chest, making it hard to breathe. The GPS didn't work. The phone had no signal. Only Route 66 stretched ahead, a ribbon of asphalt swallowed by shadows. Then, in the distance, the outline of a canyon appeared. Towering rock walls, jagged and black against the moonlight, rose from the desert floor. I slowed the car. The canyon seemed wrong. Too quiet. Too still. And yet, it pulled at me, almost like a lure. "Jess, what is that?" Lily whispered. I didn't answer immediately. The canyon looked alive. The rock faces seemed to twist subtly, like shapes shifting in the darkness. Wind whispered through narrow crevices, carrying voices, faint, fragmented. Whispers of David, yes, but layered over other sounds, growls, hisses, and something older, almost human. I parked at the canyon's entrance. Stepping out, the desert air was heavier than before, colder. I shivered. The sand under my boots shifted unnaturally, moving in tiny spirals as though alive. "Stay close," I said, gripping Lily's arm. We walked into the canyon, the walls pressing in on either side. Shadows grew long, stretching toward us like dark fingers. The whispering grew louder, clearer. David's voice repeated, "Jess, help please." And then other voices layered beneath it, chanting in Navajo, distorted, backward, like some ancient language trying to crawl into our minds. I stumbled over a rock. Lily caught my arm. "Jess, this is a trap. We shouldn't be here." But I had no choice. My gut told me David was here, or somewhere inside this canyon, at least part of him. The canyon floor began to undulate, shifting as if it were breathing. Sand moved beneath our feet. Small stones rolled in impossible ways. My heart hammered. Suddenly, a howl split the night, deep, resonant, terrifying. It came from above, from the cliffs. A figure dropped from the canyon rim. Not human, not entirely animal. A skinwalker, but this one wasn't running on all fours. It landed like a predator, limbs bending unnaturally, claws scraping the stone. Its head snapped toward us, and for a brief second, I saw David's face on it, smiling, terrified, broken. The creature crouched, ready to pounce. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing Lily's hand. We sprinted, zigzagging through jagged rocks, sand flying in every direction. The Skinwalker followed, moving faster than any human should be able to, claws digging into the stone, feet making no sound. We ducked into a narrow fissure, a gap barely wide enough for us to squeeze through. The Skinwalker paused at the entrance, sniffing, listening. Its head twisted unnaturally, scanning the shadows. I held my breath, pressed against Lily. She trembled beside me. Then I heard it. Another voice. Not from the Skinwalker. From deeper in the canyon. "Jess, over here, please." It was David. Alive. Or at least partially alive. The whisper echoed down a side crevice. My chest swelled with hope, but I didn't dare move too quickly. The Skinwalker hissed. Its limbs stretched, twisting in ways that defied reality. A low rumble echoed in the canyon walls. It smelled fear. It smelled blood. It smelled us. I looked at Lily. "We have to go deeper. That's where he is." Her eyes widened. "Jess, are you insane? It's chasing us." "No choice," I said. My voice trembled. "He's in there." I took a step into the narrow crevice. The walls were rough, scraping our shoulders. Sand fell from above. The whispers grew louder. Each step felt heavier than the last, the weight of something ancient pressing down on me. Then I saw it, a faint glow ahead. Not fire, not electricity, something different. Warm, human. "David," I whispered. "Jess, hurry." His voice cracked, and then, for the first time, I heard his fear. Real fear, not mimicry. We ran toward the glow, squeezing through the narrowing passage. Behind us, the Skinwalker roared, a sound that shook the canyon walls, reverberating like thunder. Shadows peeled from the walls, twisting into shapes, almost human, almost monster, reaching for us. I reached out, pulling Lily along. The glow intensified. I could see David, trapped, not fully himself, suspended in some shimmering veil of light, held by shadows that weren't entirely solid. I stopped. "David, I'm here." The Skinwalker skidded around a bend, limbs snapping. The shadows pressed closer. My heart froze. Time slowed. Breath slowed. Only one thought rang clear. Save him, or lose him forever. The glow grew brighter as we squeezed deeper into the canyon. The narrow passageway funneled us toward what looked like a pocket of light, suspended like a bubble between the jagged rocks. David's faint form shimmered inside it, twisting, barely recognizable. The shadows holding him pulsed, like veins of darkness flowing with a life of their own. "David," I shouted. My voice cracked. "Hold on." His lips moved, but no sound came out. His eyes flickered, half human, half something else. Panic clawed at me. The Skinwalker wasn't far behind. I could hear its claws scraping the canyon walls, the unnatural hiss echoing like a nightmare amplified by the rocks. I grabbed Lily's hand. "We need to act fast. Get closer." The shadows around David recoiled slightly as we approached, as if sensing our determination. But each step we took, the Skinwalker adapted, its elongated limbs bending to match the terrain, sliding along walls and rocks effortlessly. "Jess, it's him," Lily whispered, pointing at the veil. "That thing holding David, he's connected to it. Maybe that's why it's mimicking him." I nodded. The logic hit me like ice water. If the Skinwalker wanted to lure us, It needed David as bait. Breaking that connection could free him, but how? I looked around. Rocks, jagged and sharp, could be used as a barrier. Sand pockets and narrow ledges could restrict movement. But any misstep could make us prey instead of rescuers. The skinwalker hissed again, then crouched low. It watched us, calculating. I could almost feel its intelligence. Not animal, not human, something older, smarter than either. "Jess, what do we do?" Lily asked, trembling. I swallowed my fear. "Distracted. I'll go for him. You find a way to block the shadows." She nodded, grabbing a jagged rock. Her hands shook, but she nodded. I crouched low and ran toward the veil, careful to keep my profile small. The skinwalker tensed, then lunged, but I was ready. Rolling into a crevice, I took cover behind a boulder. Its massive body slammed into the rock with a deafening crack. The wall trembled. Dust rained down. I inched closer, heart pounding. David's form flickered, the shadows tightening. His eyes met mine for a split second, recognition. Hope flared. I grabbed the edge of the veil. It rippled like water. My fingers burned as I pulled. The shadows resisted, writhing and snapping, lashing toward me like tendrils of black flame. The skinwalker skidded closer, claws extended, a guttural hiss escaping its throat. Lily threw the rock, hitting a concentration of shadow. It burst into spiraling fragments, giving me an opening. I grabbed David's hand. His skin was cold, unreal. The veil pulsed, then began to loosen slightly. The skinwalker roared. The sound vibrated in my chest. It lunged. Time slowed. I pulled David with all my strength. The shadows shrieked, a high-pitched, inhuman sound. Then, they recoiled completely as if the bond was breaking. David's body became solid, more human, though exhausted and trembling. I stumbled backward with him. Lily blocked the shadows with more rocks and debris. The skinwalker hissed, realizing its bait was gone. It snarled, twisting, limbs bending in impossible angles. Then, as if enraged, it lunged at the canyon wall and disappeared into the darkness. David collapsed to his knees. I caught him before he fell completely. "Jess, you saved me," he whispered weakly. I swallowed my tears. "We're not out yet, but you're safe. For now." He nodded, still shaking. The shadows faded completely. The canyon seemed to exhale. The wind picked up, carrying a whisper through the rocks. Not David's voice. Not ours. Something older, slower, deliberate. The threat wasn't gone. It was waiting. Patient. Calculating. The skinwalker didn't give up. And now, it had witnessed our attempt. It knew we could act. We couldn't linger. The canyon wall seemed alive again. Subtle movements, shadows stretching toward us, testing our vigilance. I helped David to his feet. Together, we climbed toward the exit, moving carefully, scanning every shadow. Finally, the canyon mouth appeared. The desert night greeted us. Stars stretched endlessly above. The air felt normal, almost. But the memory of whispers and the skinwalker's roar lingered. I glanced at David. "Can you walk?" He nodded weakly. I think so." Lily and I guided him toward the car, which we had left parked near the canyon entrance. The highway stretched ahead. Route 66, endless, mysterious, dangerous. But for now, it was a path away from the canyon, away from the shadows, away from the skinwalker. I started the engine. The car roared to life. We drove cautiously, looking in the rearview mirror. The desert was empty, silent, peaceful, too peaceful. I didn't trust it. But for the first time since the journey began, David was with us. And that small victory gave me hope. The desert stretched endlessly before us as we finally reached open road. David leaned weakly against the car, still trembling from the canyon ordeal. Lily sat beside him, gripping the dashboard, trying to steady herself. I kept my eyes on the dark horizon, watching every shadow, every movement, ready for the Skinwalker to reappear. The night was quiet, almost serene, but the silence carried a tension I couldn't shake. The desert didn't forgive mistakes, and whatever had chased us, whatever had mimicked David, was still out there, patient, waiting. "Jess, where do we go now?" Lily whispered. Her voice was soft, fragile. I exhaled, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "We keep moving, until we reach the next town, until we're far enough that it can't follow." David, weak but coherent, looked out the window. I remember bits. The Skinwalker, it's not just one. There are more. Others waiting. It's like they patrol. I swallowed hard. Then we stick together. We don't stop until we're safe. The tires rolled over cracked asphalt. Route 66 stretched on like a ribbon of darkness. Moonlight reflected off scattered sand. The wind whispered faintly, carrying sounds of distant howls, but nothing close. For now, it was a fragile calm. As we drove, memories of the past days clawed at me. The gas station that didn't exist. The sandstorm that formed humanoid figures. The canyon. The radio messages. The mimicry. Every encounter had felt like a test, a trial. And now, after saving David, I realized one terrifying truth. It wasn't done. It never would be. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time had lost all meaning. The desert seemed endless, and each mile stretched longer than the last. My eyelids grew heavy, but I forced myself awake, aware that even a brief lapse could be fatal. Suddenly, the headlights picked up movement on the road ahead. Small, flickering shadows, like silhouettes of people or creatures standing at the side of the highway. My stomach turned. The Skinwalker's minions? Other mimics? Or was it just my imagination? I slowed. The shadows didn't move, but the feeling of being watched intensified. Every instinct screamed at me to accelerate. Lily's hand gripped mine. "Jess, don't stop," she whispered. I didn't. We passed the silhouettes without incident, but the hair on my arms stood on end. Every turn, every mile, felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of knives. Hours later, a faint glow appeared on the horizon. A town. Lights twinkled in the distance. Safe harbor against the desert night. Relief washed over us. We drove faster, exhaustion forgotten for the moment. As we approached, I saw something in the rearview mirror. Movement in the sand behind us. A massive figure, tall, indistinct, made of swirling shadows and dust. It watched from the dunes, waiting, not chasing, just watching. I swallowed hard. "It's not gone," I muttered. David leaned forward, gripping the dashboard. "We can't outrun them. We just have to survive long enough." The town lights grew closer. We entered the first street, the asphalt smooth under our tires. The desert remained behind us, a black void, and the Skinwalker, or whatever force controlled these creatures, stayed in its domain. For now, we parked near a diner, open late, neon buzzing faintly in the night. I turned off the engine. Silence filled the car, a fragile, trembling quiet. Lily exhaled deeply. We made it. David sat back, closing his eyes. I thought I'd never see you again. I reached over, squeezing his shoulder. We're here. Safe. For now. And that's when I realized the truth we all understood in our hearts. The Skinwalker, the shadows, the mimics, They weren't bound to one place. They could be anywhere, waiting, watching. The night had claimed our innocence, our sense of safety. But we had survived. Together. I looked out the windshield at the desert stretching back behind the town. The dunes were silent. The shadows were gone. For tonight. But the whispers would return. The mimicry would return. And the Skinwalker would never forget the three of us who defied it. I leaned back, breathing slowly. We'll keep going. We'll stay together. And we won't let it take anyone else. David and Lily nodded, silent but resolute. The night stretched ahead, filled with dangers we couldn't yet imagine. But for the first time, I felt hope. A fragile, flickering hope that maybe, just maybe, we could survive. We stayed in the diner until dawn, watching the desert beyond. The sun rose slowly, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink. Shadows faded. Silence ruled. For now. And in the quiet, I whispered a promise we all felt deep in our bones. We survived the night, but we will never forget the darkness that hunts in the sand, in the shadows, in the voices of those we love.